Hello, sorry about our internet issues. Apparently AT&T was not cooperating with our virtual school. Thank you for being good. Mr. Birchnell said you guys were very good while filling in. I'm just going to review our notes overall. And so then you guys can get started on your homework. So if you remember, we talked about our polygons, how our polygons are a closed straight figure with 3 or more sides. So all of these were polygons except for the open and the curved one. Then we're focusing on quadrilaterals. Remember, those are 4-sided polygons. Our trapezoid was the first one that we talked about, how there's one set of parallel lines, and we use this little symbol here to show that those are parallel. And they also have a set of congruent sides. Remember, congruent means the same. A trapezoid could look like this, or it could look like this. It just has to have one set of parallel lines. Our next one we talked about was a parallelogram. Remember, a parallelogram has 2 pairs of congruent sides, meaning 2 sides are the same length, and 2 pairs of parallel sides. And it's also called a quadrilateral. A rectangle here has 2 pairs of congruent sides and 4 right angles here. So it's very similar to our parallelogram, right? But except for the angles are different. There's the right angles here in the corners. Our next one we had was our rhombus. We talked about how all 4 sides are congruent. So it's very similar, remember, to our parallelogram. The difference was on a parallelogram, it only had 2 pairs of congruent sides. All right, this is my parallelogram, and my rhombus, all 4 are congruent, but it also, just like a parallelogram, has 2 pairs of congruent angles. My square had all 4 congruent sides and 4 right angles, and these are the different names that could be called. Remember, it's towards the bottom of our categories there. We talked about how area is the space inside versus perimeter is the outside for perimeter. We left off right here. So remember, we found our perimeter for the first one. For my second one here, for my area, we had to find, for the orange shape here, I had to do 4 times 4, because if you think about this one in here, it's like I have 4 rows times 4. That would be 16 square centimeters. And my blue one here, this is 10 by 4. So I'm going to do 10 times 4. That's 40. If we wanted to find both together, now I would just add those up and get 56 centimeters squared. Now for the second one, it's a little bit tricky. So first, when you find perimeter, you need to make sure all of your missing sides have labels. So here, here, and here, right? So if this is 2 down here, then this needs to be 2 up here. If this is 8 on the bottom, I'm going to label the top 8. Now for this mystery side over here, I'm going to use the clues I have. So if this side is 2 here, this has to be 2. If this is 5, I know this has to be 5. If this is 2, this has to be 2. Now that I have all of my sides, I'm going to add them all up together. So just make sure, right? 8 plus 2 would be 10. 8 plus another 2 would be 10. Then I'm going to do 5 plus 5 is another 10. Then I have 2, 4, 6, 8. So all together, I have 38 feet for my perimeter on this one. Now for my area, I'm going to erase some of those other numbers so it's not as confusing here. And for my perimeter, for my area, I'm going to do the same kind of thing. I'm going to break it into 2 smaller rectangles like we had on the last one. I'm going to just break mine this way because I think it's easier. On this first rectangle in here, right, I have 5 as my length and 2 as my width. So I'm going to do 5 times 2, which is 10 feet squared. And my second one in here, so if I'm looking at my second one in here, remember this is 8 feet across. And remember, we found the whole length of this whole side here was my, all those little pieces. Remember I had like 2, oops, let me switch the pen there. 2, 5, 2. So if I add those up, 5 plus 2 is 7, plus 2 more would give me 9. So this whole length in here would be 9. So for my second one, it's 8 times 9 is 72 feet squared. But remember, I got to add those together. So you should have 82 feet squared for the area on this one. Okay, so the last shape that we hopefully you talked about with Mr. Birchnall is our kite. Remember, our kite has 2 sets of congruent sides. Don't worry about that right angle in the middle. They're just showing you that this is a line of symmetry and this is a line of symmetry here. The important thing to know about a kite, it has 2 sets of congruent sides. So this is what we were going to do in class together here, and then I want you to submit this to Canvas so I can see it. So this is on the Daily Digest here. You're going to get it and send it to Notability. So why don't you get it and try it, pause the video, and then check your work as we're going. So you can see here I filled in the definition for a polygon. A polygon is a 3 or more sided closed figure with straight sides. You can draw in some examples of polygons there. My just general polygon, member, we had like our, whoops, let me switch so it's not on the highlighter there. We had just any random shape as long as it's closed. So you could draw in a few different ones so you remember, right? Could look like this, could look anything you want. Mine looks somewhat curved there. I might try to make them a little bit more of straight sides. Quadrilateral, remember, is a 4-sided polygon. And you can draw in any polygon you want. We should maybe put let's put our drawing of our kite here. Remember, our kite has 2 sets of congruent sides here, and use the little symbol to show that these are congruent. And then my parallelogram, think about what the, oops, let me fix my parallelogram there. Think about what the main characteristic for a parallelogram was. It has 2 sets of parallel lines, 2 sets of, I'll use this little symbol, parallel lines, and 2 sets of congruent lines. For a trapezoid, remember a trapezoid could look like this. It could be a symmetric one, or it could look like this. Remember a trapezoid, the big characteristic for a trapezoid is that it has, whoops, that's a wrong symbol. Let me fix that. It has 1 set of parallel lines. 1 set of parallel lines. Now, you make sure you're putting these little arrows here to show a quadrilateral can be a kite is an example, parallelogram is an example, trapezoid is an example. Now, a parallelogram, right, draw these little arrows here. The next category under parallelogram is our rhombus. So remember a rhombus, whoops, let me switch back to the pen there. A rhombus looks similar to a square, but it has 2 acute and 2 obtuse angles. So let's put down a rhombus. All 4 sides are the same. Remember that fancy word is congruent. And it has 2 acute and 2 obtuse angles. I'll use that symbol for angles. Our rectangle has, remember, 2 sets of congruent sides, and all 4 sides are right angles. So, oops, 2 sets of congruent sides and 4 right angles. Now, our last one down here is a square. Remember, with a square, all 4 sides, 4 congruent sides, just like a rhombus, and 4 right angles. Okay, please check your work with mine and then submit this to, you're going to submit this to Canvas and then go ahead and work on your math space. Please log into Extra Help on Thursday at 11:30 if you need any help. Thank you guys.